speaking of a question and just like timing, I feel like your story, you seemed like you were thrown into divine timing for your career. What is your perspective on divine timing as a medium? Because in our session, which was so profound, I have to say that session with you was one of the best medium sessions I've ever had.
Oh,
I've had
thank
so many,
you.
like I had like my fiance's grandfather come through and it was just like really profound but it was also really gentle. But in regards to divine timing,
Mhm.
do you believe in it, or are we
Hmm.
always on time, or does free will like slow down or speed up that timeline?
Oh, just the big questions today. I love
Just the
this.
big one. Yeah, we cut
Yeah,
right to the
I
chase here.
I love it. I do believe in divine timing, but I think divine timing is more so when we're ready to let it in, when we're truly able to embody or align with what it is that we're wanting to align with. And I look back at just where I am now and where I was at, let's say, like 23, 25, and the things that I really wanted at that time that wasn't coming through that now I am receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back and I realize just how not prepared I was to receive what I'm receiving now and how that would have just slipped through my fingers. And so now just to be able to do work that feels very purpose driven and has meaning for me, it feels so good because I'm in a place in my life where I truly appreciate it and I'm truly grateful for it. I I don't necessarily believe in divine timing as when the universe says it's right. I believe it's a blend of both. I think the universe is always saying it's right. It's really a matter of when will we let this in and when will we be able to really fully embrace it.
I agree. I think it's a dance between fate
Hmm.
and free will, but we really have
Yeah.
to show up. And one thing that from our session, you were talking about a big writing project that has been in my orbit for a very long time, and I haven't been able to manifest or to have it drop in. And you were sharing such really beautiful practices and tools, like embodiment tools based on the feeling. So what
Mm,
tips do you have based on that, on like how can we really get there or feel into what we
mm,
really want to bring in so that we are ready and that we are really aligned and that we can really just be a magnet for what is meant
mm-hmm,
for us and not like reaching as much.
yeah. And that's hard, right? Because there's this kind of this thing where it's we're here. I believe that we're here to desire, to create, to expand. But then
Mm-hmm.
there's also like the paradox of you have to be willing to just let go of everything that you have to receive what it is that you want. And
Yeah.
so sometimes it is that balance of the okay, I know I'm here to expand, but also just be really happy with where I am.
Yeah.
And so I think when it comes to just embodying what it is that we want, what has helped for me in my journey has been picturing myself either writing the book or taking the trip or in the relationship or whatever it is that I'm wanting to experience, and really just focusing on what's the essence of the feeling that I'm experiencing
Mm.
when I'm there in that experience and trying to make it as broad as possible. So for me, usually it's freedom, it's joy, it's peace. Like those are usually my go-tos. And then
Mm-hmm.
how can I spend time practicing those feelings and holding them in my body? What does freedom feel
Mm-hmm.
like? And how
Mm-hmm.
can I hold that in my body? Because I'm going to tell you something like full disclosure, I'm very well practiced at feeling anxiety, scarcity, struggle. Like I got that down pat. Like that is so well practiced.
Same.
I'm good.
Same. A pro.
But yeah, but when I think about it, I'm like, gosh, how often throughout my day do I just practice the feeling of freedom or peace or just
Mm.
let my nervous system be just nice and relaxed? I truthfully think, Kara, if you would have asked me a couple of years ago about manifesting, I've been like, oh my God, get out your pen and paper and get out your candles and get this
Mm-hmm.
herb and get this oil and write this down a million times. Now I'm like, regulate your nervous system. You want the life that you desire, regulate your nervous system.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
it.
I think that's, yeah, 100%. A lot of my work has revolved around escapism and materialism, which I feel like comes up on every single podcast. And I feel like over the past 10 years, we've really seen this shift of, okay, like, we are writing the list and doing these things and over ritualizing, perhaps tethering a little too tightly to the tools, or just like taking in an abundance of information. And now we're in this state consciously and collectively of just, okay, like, who am I? What do I feel like? What do I want? What is meant for me? Not what everyone else is saying. And I feel like when you tune into that Eunice, that core essence, that's when you really become like a master manifester.
Yeah.
It's almost just, again, like calling out Deborah today, but it's like what Mama Medicine says about demanifestation, and what you mentioned about being so wholeheartedly grateful for where you are right now, because you will never be with this version of self again. And that's like such an abundant feeling. That's such a whole feeling. And that's something I've been like tuning into like collectively right now.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
What collectively is something collectively coming up for you in readings? Have you seen a common thread recently?
That's a great question. And there will be weeks where it's, oh my gosh, we're just talking about this one topic. And then there's weeks where it's totally different, right? Or even in mediumship, I'll get like a whole week of people who their loved one passed a very specific way. And maybe it's not every reading, right? But it's at least one a day, right? And then lately it really has been that message of acceptance. Like acceptance has been a big word, just accepting where you are, accepting what is, accepting what was. That's been a pretty big word in my reading. The other word is wholeness, that reminder that we are whole. There's nothing that we have to do to be that, right? Like our homes, our bodies, our relationships, social media, everything in this physical experience, it's all borrowed. I don't own any of this. I'm giving this body back. Like when I'm done in this experience, this body's not going where my soul or my energy is going. Even my body is borrowed.
Absolutely.
So knowing that when we make our transition into what's next and we tune into becoming back into a frequency or a soul or an energy or whatever the belief system there is, we're not taking any of this with us. And so it's all borrowed. But so then without these things, and what are we? And we're an energy, and that energy is already whole and complete. Enjoying the physical things while we have them. Look, I love nice things. I love them. I love having experiences. I love going on trips. I love sitting down with my friends, and enjoying like a great meal. None of this is mine. It's an experience. And so that reminder that I'm already whole, these are just things that now I get to experience as a whole being.
Yeah, we're just microcosms in a meat suit, I say.
Yeah.
And it's like a remembrance. Like we're on this journey to live and learn and make mistakes and make it messy too. And then it's like this coming home, this homecoming back to your soul's core essence.
And for me, that's been really grounding. I know that for me, it's been really grounding because it also reminds me that while I'm here in this very borrowed experience, make the most of it and be kind to other people and do your best to help other people also have a good experience, right? So
100%.
Yeah.
Do you have any insights? You keep on talking about, I'm a big believer in, our souls are everlasting and we live many lifetimes. I think I've lived like 72 is what like a healer told me once. And I was like, dope. I would love to go back into some of those lifetimes, which I have a couple of times. But do you have any insights on just like what happens when we transition? Has any of that come through your mediumship?
Yeah, the best way that it's been described to me as just as release, almost like that feeling of if we're carrying a lot of like grocery bags and then, how you put them down and then your arms are like, oh, thank goodness. It's like that feeling of just release. And I do believe that we go through soul review or our life review with our soul, where we go back and we look over our entire life, who we affected, who affected us, the experiences that we had, the lessons that we learned, the lessons that we may have missed. And so from what I've learned in mediumship sessions is that's what happens when we make that big transition.
Totally. There's like a processing that goes on. And it spikes some spiritual anxiety, honestly, being like,
Hmm.
oh, lessons missed. Do you feel
Yeah,
like, because obviously when we reincarnate, we have to relearn some of those lessons. But I recently
sure.
heard something in Kabbalah where it's you learn, like you learn everything that you need to learn in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And I
And
feel, go
yeah,
ahead.
I believe that we get everything that we may have needed, but there can be extra stuff like Easter eggs in a movie, right? Like where you go back and
Yeah.
you watch a movie and you're like, oh my gosh, I totally missed that or I didn't see that. I think the experience is still complete with what we've got, but I do think sometimes there are things that were put in there that maybe we just didn't notice or maybe just didn't come to full bloom. And that's okay. I still think the experience is complete. And I also believe that when we do make that transition, we're not looking back at our life with judgment or shame or guilt. Like that's all very human ego things. I think it's really more so just looking at it as, oh, this is what it was. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like
Great.
honor. It's like
Yeah.
complete honor and positivity. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.